Thanks for coming out. My name's Nick Popaditch, and I was a Marine, Gunnery Sergeant, Tank Commander, Platoon Sergeant. And I'm going to take a few minutes and tell you about the things that took me from doing that to being in this room here with you. And hopefully it'll give you an idea about kind of the Marine Corps, Semper Fi, and those sort of things that we fight and believe in. I was a Gunnery Sergeant, and for those of you who don't understand what a Gunnery Sergeant is, the best way to describe it is a Gunnery Sergeant gets to be in the room when the General or the Colonel makes the plan, but you also get to be on the ground when the private has to do it. You're the one that takes that commander's intent and translates it to action on the ground. And because of that role, I love being a Marine. I love being a Gunny. I thought it was the best rank in the Marine Corps, and loved every minute of it. So what I'll tell you about, I guess most recently, what would be most relevant topic is Operation Iraqi Freedom, the march up to Baghdad, the portion of it that I was involved with. I was part of the initial push, the initial invasion across the Kuwaiti-Iraqi border and the march up to Baghdad. Now that part of it, there was a big unknown, and the big unknown was the Iraqi people. Nobody really knew what were these people going to do, because the Iraqi civilian population is a lot like our population here. Everybody owns a rifle, a handgun, everybody has a firearm of some sort in their possession. So what were these individuals going to do? Were they going to fight for Saddam? Or were they going to take a shot at the Americans around every corner? Or were they going to see that our mission there was regime change and not a fight with them and get out of the way, or actually maybe even join in with us? Nobody knew. But the commanding general, General Mattis for the 1st Marine Division, he gave us a guidance. He said, be no better friend or no worse enemy. If they want to get on our side, you be as good a friend as they'll possibly ever have. And if they choose to fight with you in their military, any of that, you fight with them so horribly that they never want to do that again. And this was good guidance. And so we crossed the border. I was a tank commander. I was with the 1st Marine Division, Task Force 3-4, 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines. I guess what you would call the tip of the spear, the lead element for the 1st Marine Division. So what I knew as a tank commander up there, I would pretty much be the first American many of these Iraqi civilians would ever see in their lives. So I knew I had to represent my nation well, and represent what America was all about, what freedom was all about, what democracy was all about, and what being an ally to our nation would mean for them. And my fellow Marines and my fellow tank commanders, we all tried to do the same thing. And things went pretty well. Up to Baghdad, we encountered resistance at Basra, Diwania, Al-Qut, Diyala, but those are things that we do well as Marines. To locate, close with, and destroy the enemy when they choose to fight us, that's something we do very well. So they were not really prepared to deal with a modern-day military such as ours, so that all went real well. But once we got into Baghdad, a strange thing happened. Once we crossed that river in Diyala, the first day we got across, it was like there was a big rummage sale in Iraq. You seen the civilians were just going through, tearing up all the government buildings, looting them. There was just this mass pandemonium was happening. And so we went to the command, we radioed up higher, said, what do we do? Do we stop them? They're stealing everything. What do we do? And he said, well, they're stealing from the government buildings. They're really just stealing their own stuff. So don't do nothing. Just continue to push. So we did. And we just kept taking ground. And then we got into the central part of Baghdad. And then everybody just disappeared. It's like a ghost town. And Baghdad's a modern city. It's a big modern city. And now we're in these streets with high-rises on both sides, big buildings, big streets, big boulevards, big 3 lanes on each side, 6-lane boulevards. Not a soul. Just like a big ghost town where all the people disappeared. And I think what happened was the people were not expecting us to be this far into Baghdad this soon. And they hunkered down because they knew there was a big change coming in their lives, and they didn't know what it was going to mean. But Americans in downtown Baghdad definitely meant their life was getting ready to change in some way. So they hunkered down. They did what most people would do. They hunkered down and they hid. They waited to see what was going to happen. Now, going up through Baghdad, or going up through Iraq, one of the things we noticed was there were images of Saddam everywhere. Any building you went in, any room you went in, there was at least a photo of Saddam. There was statues of him everywhere. There were pictures of him, posters of him, murals of him. So you couldn't go anywhere in Iraq without encountering images of Saddam everywhere you went. And it was comical to us to see this sort of thing, because we don't deal with that here. I mean, we started to make up nicknames for all these Saddam images. Like the white suit Saddam, you've probably seen that. We used to call that Fantasy Island Saddam, and we had all these names for all these Saddam images. So we got to downtown Baghdad, and there's a place there called Ferdo Square, which is typical Iraqi logic because it's a circle, but it's called Ferdo Square. So we went there, and in the middle of this circle, there's a big statue of Saddam Hussein, a big 40-foot statue, a big grand statue. You know, he's in this grand pose and all this. And for us, it really was just a good spot to set a defensive perimeter. So our tanks encircled it, we pointed out, and we were just setting a perimeter because we had just been taking ground. And then, as with all great things, it started with one individual. One lone man one lone civilian walked up to our perimeter, and he walked out to see just what these Americans were all about. And he was met with a handshake. Not a rifle butt, not a rifle barrel, he was met with a handshake. And the others saw this, and it emboldened them. And more came, and more came, and more came. And then it started to get to be a tactical issue for us, because soon this circle, Ferdo Square, this square, I guess we'll call it their name, this square, soon started having hundreds of individuals in it, 1,000 individuals in there, and they started celebrating. And they were celebrating the arrival of the Americans. And I was watching this, and I was like, wow. You know, and of course, I had the Gunny thing going on. I'm thinking, you know, we might have a little serious tactical problem here, because we got all these civilians in here. What if all of them are not necessarily on our side? But the whole thing had a special type feel to it, that we all just kind of let it happen. We let it happen, and it got more and more celebratory. And then they turned their attention to that statue of Saddam. And this is an image. This image of Saddam, you didn't stand up to it. That's why he put these images there, to remind these people, I'm the dictator, you're the people, you don't say nothing. And they turned their attention to that statue. And then it got kind of funny for all of us, as we started watching them disrespect that statue. And they do things in Arabic culture that look pretty funny when they're disrespecting something. So they were disrespecting the statue very openly. And it was funny to watch. It was a little bit motivating to think that these people now can do this because we're here. And then a big fella stepped out of the crowd, big hulking fella, and he grabbed a sledgehammer and he started beating on the base of this statue to knock it down. And I thought, that's kind of cool. You know, he's gonna beat through the base of this statue to knock it down. But I was kind of laughing at it. You know, it's gonna take him about 3 days to beat through that. We're probably not even gonna be here when he ever gets through the statue. It's a 40-foot high statue. And then a kid walked up to one of our vehicles, just a small child, and he said, Mister, he said, can you help us tear down the statue? And he was asking the M88 tank retriever. It's like a tow truck for the tanks. Vehicle commander was a fellow named Gunny Lambert. Gunny Lambert said, sure, he fired that vehicle up. Many of you may have seen this event happen either in the media on TV or in paper or whatever. So he rolls up to this statue of Saddam Hussein. They throw the boom out. The Marine goes up the boom. He wraps that chain noose around Saddam's neck. There's a couple interesting things I would tell you about that event right there. That Marine that went up that boom, his name was Popaditch. He's the son of Burmese immigrants, and he's from New York City. And I always thought that was a nice little 9/11 twist. That Marine that went up there and noosed up Saddam was from New York City. But he got up there and he hooked that noose around Saddam's neck.